Now, the brutal killing has shaken the UK, sparking fears of terrorism returning to the capital. RT's Polly Boiko looks at what could lie behind the attack and its broader implications for the country.
Prime Minister David Cameron has said that this is a most appalling crime and that there are strong indications that it was a terrorist incident, that the UK would never buckle in the face of terrorism. He has cut short a trip to Paris. He was there with Francois Hollande. He's going to be chairing a COBRA, an emergency government committee meeting. One of those meetings has already taken place and the decision was taken to increase security outside other army barracks in and around London. The incident has been met by horror from politicians from all sides of the political spectrum. People are very shocked that this has taken place, but if indeed it is confirmed as an act of terror carried out by Islamic extremists, well then it's a brutal act that is very unprecedented for the UK. It presents a new reality for the British government and a new problem to face, really, because this wasn't a plot. It wasn't a sophisticated bomb plot like the ones we've seen foiled in recent years. It wasn't anything like the July 7th bombings with the buses. This is a brutal and very basic attack in the middle of a London street in broad daylight outside of a primary school. The likely motivation for this brutal killing is looks to be, some people are speculating, British involvement abroad. We know that the British Army has been involved in conflicts in Libya, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and William Hague, also the British Foreign Minister, has recently been calling to arm the Syrian rebels, and Britain's been heavily involved and actively campaigning to arm the Syrian rebels, and they've been helping them and providing support in other ways. And we also know that Islamists have threatened, actually, a number of times to behead a British soldier in retaliation for military involvement in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya. And in fact, 6 years ago, a group of British Pakistanis based in Birmingham were convicted of plotting such an attack. But today, it looks like that attack may have taken place. It's not confirmed yet, but that's what a lot of people are talking about. And it's already causing a number of commentators to make the link between British involvement and this sort of what looks to be like a homegrown terrorist attack. We've had the British MP George Galloway saying today, to quote, "This sickening atrocity is exactly what we're paying the same kind of people to do in Syria." So in the view of some, it's British involvement abroad that's increasing the danger for the British people at home with the attack that we've seen.
Correspondent Polly Boiko there in London. And RT contributor Afshin Rattansi, he echoes the view shared by Polly, linking the London attack to atrocities committed, again, by rebel forces in Syria.
It is true that David Cameron and Hague are at the forefront, along with Francois Hollande in Paris, trying to support the rebels that are hacking to death Christians, Muslims, people of no faith at all in Syria. Perhaps people would have seen how alike the events in Woolwich were to the hacking we saw in the streets of, I think it was Homs. But of course, that kind of attack has been occurring all over Syria, except, as I said, the British government is supporting the people with the machetes. I have to say, when I first heard about this at 2 o'clock our time, and that it was a machete and that it was involving knives, and then, of course, the inevitable, there were Islamists, or there was some connection to Islam, one had to think, was the machete being supplied by William Hague? In no way will they change their foreign policy. If anything, they won't change their foreign policy. They will react completely wrongly, just as they did after 7/7, invent new MI5 operations to infiltrate Muslim communities, create more antagonism, and inspire more events, if the past is anything to go by, more tragic, terrible, vile events like the ones we saw today in Woolwich.
And here at RT, we've also got some reaction from across the Atlantic. Brian Becker from the Anti-War Answer Coalition. He believes such violence could have been predicted ever since the UK first embraced America's foreign policy actions abroad.
This was a disgusting attack, a terrible assault, a murderous attack, one that people are sickened by throughout the UK and all over the world. But when we look into the broader context, we have to, I would say, note two particular things. One is there is an escalating cycle of violence that is predictable and was predicted. The British, along with the British, meaning the British government, not the people, joined George W. Bush in the invasion of Iraq, support the war in Afghanistan, were principals in demanding the bombing of Libya, along with the United States and France and NATO, are arming the same rebels in Syria. So the British colonial past and its current legacy of intervention in war is undoubtedly a factor. The other thing, though, that we have to think about is, will this lead to the targeting of immigrant populations, black populations, Muslim populations, for a new round of universal type demonization or criminalization? And that's something we have to also be on the lookout for and be against.